Southeast Mortgage, the official home loan lender of the Georgia Bulldogs, presents the official podcast of Dawgs on Demand on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. On today's program, we'll give you the latest news from the world of University of Georgia athletics and more. And now, from the broadcast studios of Dawgs on Demand, here's your host, Chris Hall.
Touchdown! All right, Chris Hall here for Dawgs on Demand on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Good to have all of you with us today, and it's good to have our guest with us today. Really needs no introduction, but I'll try anyway. Former Georgia quarterback, great Aaron Murray, set all kinds of records at the University of Georgia some years ago, went on to play in the NFL. Now he's a college football analyst, commentator for ESPN. Aaron, it's good to see you. Good to have you on our program today.
Yeah, excited. It's a big week. Happy late Thanksgiving. Hope it was a great Thanksgiving for you and everyone listening. And it's SEC Championship week. This is where you want to get to. This is goal number one, get to Atlanta. Yeah. And another year for the Dogs to see if they can go out there and win an SEC Championship.
Hey, it's an exciting week. It's been an exciting season. Before we get into football, I do want to touch on the important stuff. Congratulations to you and your beautiful wife on the birth of your second child. So as you come to us today, did you get any sleep last night?
I did. So we got a good little routine. First of all, thank you for the kind words. Baby's doing great. Mama's doing great. We got a good little routine. I'll take little one till about midnight. Wife will go to sleep about 9. And then I'll do a quick feeding, put her down, and then I go to another room and I go to sleep for about 7 hours. So we're making it through. We're each getting, about 6-7 hours of straight sleep just at different times. So it's we've been there, done that. This is baby number 2. So we learned a couple things from the first one.
Yeah, it's exciting, and congratulations to you again. Well, let's talk about Georgia. I mean, here we go. Now, the Georgia Bulldogs 12-0. Second consecutive undefeated season during the regular season. Number one team in the country. Second consecutive, winning all the games in the SEC. Currently on a 27-game winning streak during the regular season. I saw something the other day, and I really didn't think about it until I saw this statistic, and it just kind of blew me away. During this 27-game regular season game winning streak, Georgia has outscored their opponents 1,103 to 273. I mean, how do you put that into context? That is amazing, but also it's historic. It really is amazing, this run that Georgia is on in the last 2 years, isn't it?
Oh, it's Kirby's identity, play great defense. And you go back to when Alabama was really in their prime, and that's when Kirby was the defense coordinator. I mean, every single year they were putting out one of the best defenses in the country, putting out top, NFL draft picks. Now all of a sudden he's brought that mentality, that coaching style to the University of Georgia, and you're seeing every year great defense. I mean, who would have thought that after what we saw last year with all the first rounders, with, to me, the best defense I've seen in a decade plus, definitely the best defense I've seen at Georgia and maybe forever, would come out there and have the production they had this year. It's stockpiling 4- and 5-star guys. It's creating a sense of urgency, and then also competition. Like, guys aren't leaving Georgia. Guys are wanting to stay. They're wanting to compete. They are getting after it day in and day out, Monday through Thursday, and then obviously in the offseason. That's what makes this team so good. That's what makes this team so scary, not only this year, but going forward as well. It is a culture of competition, and it is a culture of guys understanding that I'm here to stay, I'm here to compete, and if I do what I'm supposed to do, I'm going to win a championship, and then I'm also going to get drafted. So it's really fun to watch from the outside looking in, and every time I talk to the players, and I'm sure you've heard this too, and I think it's out there, but they always say Monday through Thursday, Monday through Friday, sometimes it's harder than what they experience on the game day.
Yeah,
because of the way they practice and grind each and every day in practice.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, if you're Georgia on offense, you're going against the number one defense in the country in practice. So that's going to get you ready, for your next game, certainly. So Georgia now completed the regular season and the college football playoff rankings. The latest ones coming out last night. Still has Georgia as number one in the college football playoff rankings. But we have a big game coming up this week. Georgia versus LSU. Now, I don't know many people who probably predicted that LSU would be in the SEC championship game. I'm sure there were a few out there. But here you go, Georgia against LSU. Kind of surprising that LSU is there. Georgia is a 17-point favorite coming into this game. So what is your thoughts about this game? I'm from the Larry Munson school of, oh my word, we got to play another team like this. You know how Larry Munson used to be. But what do you think about this game? Georgia versus LSU. Georgia decided, a decided favorite in this game. But what gives you pause? Is there anything that gives you pause about this game coming up with LSU?
Yeah, I think LSU is a good football team. I think LSU has good talent. I mean, there's a reason why that they've been able to get through their schedule, win games, big games like Alabama. This season, there's talent there, and I think Brian Kelly, heading into this season, I was like, man, like he was a top 5 coach and is a top 5 coach in America. What he did at Notre Dame was incredible. So we know LSU in Louisiana, that state has infinite amounts of talent when it comes to football and being a football-rich state. Now you put that together with a coach like Brian Kelly, it was only going to be a matter of time before things started to really click, and you're starting to see that, middle of the season and on. And yes, they've had some hiccups. The blowout loss to Tennessee, the loss last week to A&M was a little bit embarrassing, but I like the weapons on offense. I think they got some really good players on defense from B.J. Ojolari, Harold Perkins, Jay Ward. There's talent there. There's enough talent where if Georgia sleepwalks, that LSU could end up winning this football game. I don't think that happens. I think Georgia obviously is, very focused, especially when you look at last season. All the talk was, hey, you're in the playoffs. Hey, you're better than Alabama. You're about to slay that dragon. And then Alabama went and embarrassed them in Atlanta. I think Kirby's message is, hey, guys, we're not going to overlook step one. And that step one is winning the SEC championship. So I think you get a very focused team. My only hesitation and pause is if Jaden Daniels is healthy. I think that's why the number is where it is right now. He was a little bit banged up last week versus the Aggies. If he's not able to be dynamic running the football, I think this LSU offense will struggle. But if he's able to run and extend plays and create that part of their offense and give Georgia some issues and create some one-on-one matchups with guys on the back end like Malik Neighbors and Cole Taylor and those guys, then I think they could keep it somewhat close. But I don't know. I think Georgia's the better team. They're deeper. They're stronger. And like I said earlier, man, I think they're focused after losing that SEC championship game last year.
Yeah. And as you watch Georgia over the last few weeks, and I don't know, maybe I'm not looking at it the way I need to look at it, but it seems to me as if over the last 2 or 3 weeks, Georgia at times has appeared to be a kind of a tired football team. They didn't really come out against Georgia Tech with a lot of focus to begin with in the game. But my word, they've gone through the grind. They had Florida and Jacksonville. Then you had Tennessee with that emotional game at home. Then you had to hit the road with the Cowbells at Mississippi State. And then you went into an ice box at Kentucky. Then you had Georgia Tech coming in. It seems to me at times that Georgia maybe is suffering a little bit from the grind of the season and suffering a little bit from being the number one team in the country, and everybody's going to give you their best shot. Is that a fair assessment of what you've seen from Georgia lately?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's a mixture of two things. I think one, that yes, it is a grind to go through the SEC. It was a grind back when I played. It's a grind now. Like it's just part of it's the closest thing to an NFL schedule. So it's good for these kids, these young men, to kind of get a feel of what it's going to take to compete at the next level. But I also think it's Kirby understanding what needs to be done in order to win and what it takes to be the number one team in the country. Let's go back to 2012 when I played, or even before that, when Alabama was, once again, everyone always compares Alabama, and I think Georgia's a good comparison because I think they're about to go and are at the beginning of a run similar to what Alabama and Nick Saban started. So that's why I always compare the two schools. It's not like they were blowing teams out 40-0. Like those games were in the 20s, they were in the teens. That's the style of ball. And Nick Saban's like, hey, win and move on. Our brand is where our brand's at. We're the number one team in the nation. All we need to do is win football games. We don't need to go out there and feel like we have to put a 40-50 burger on our opponents. And I think that's where Kirby is right now. I said it during the Kentucky game. There was never a moment, whether it was versus Florida, Kentucky, Georgia Tech, where I'm sitting back as a fan saying, oh my, we may lose this football game.
Right.
There was never that thought. It was the game's in control. Kirby knows what he needs to do to win. Is it sexy? Is it entertaining? Is it what the fans want with high octane offense and scoring? No, but who cares? Win and move on. The Georgia brand right now is the biggest brand in college football. They're the defending champs. They're number one heading into the postseason. All you need to do is win. It does. I don't care if you beat LSU 10-0. I don't care if you beat TCU or USC or Ohio State 20-17. I don't care if you beat Michigan 14-7. It's a win. So I just think people need to understand that. Like, let's not get crazy here thinking that everything has to be 30-point differential. Georgia's doing what they need to get done. I do want to see this receiving crew, for me, step it up a little bit.
Right.
There's been some ups and downs, and Ladd was on, then Ladd was off, then Ladd I think has kind of gotten back to what we expect from him. I would love to see AD Mitchell this weekend. Don't know if we'll see him there. If not, fingers crossed for the playoffs. I think he'll add a lot of juice. But that's really the only piece I think could help him take that next step. Just them being able to create a few more explosive plays with Stetson.
And speaking of Stetson, okay, I've already cast you in the role of being Stetson Bennett in the movie to come up. Okay. We had that discussion earlier. But Stetson is Stetson. He doesn't care what anybody says about him. He's just going to go out there and play. I can't think of a quarterback in the nation that I would rather have under center at the University of Georgia than Stetson Bennett. What do you think?
I love the kid. I think he's terrific. I think what he's done for 2 years is I've never seen it before. I mean, we all know the journey. I mean, the journey is, you said it. It deserves a book. It deserves a movie. It deserves everything. And I'll say this: like, Stetson Bennett's playing career is not done after this season. I know the narrative was, hey, Stetson should be grateful that he's the quarterback of Georgia. Stetson Bennett should be grateful that he's had the opportunity to start for 2 years. No. Stetson is good enough to make a roster at the next level. Great, I think above average arm strength. I think actually pretty darn good arm strength. Mobility is tremendous. His ability to maneuver the pocket, get in and outside the pocket. The only knock on Stetson is he's not 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", 6'5". That's it. Yeah. But Bryce Young, who's they're different. I don't want the headline to be Aaron Murray compares Bryce Young and Stetson Bennett. Bryce is a beast. Bryson is. But all I'm saying is Bryce is 5'9", 5'10", 180, 90 pounds. The NFL is not scared of drafting quarterbacks or picking up quarterbacks that are a little bit below that 6'2" kind of threshold. So I think Stetson's a guy that I would not be surprised gets drafted maybe 5th to 7th round. Would not be surprised if he makes a roster, and I definitely think he deserves an opportunity to be on a practice squad. That's what you have right there. Yeah. So I think the issue is the narrative was made a long time ago of who Stetson is, what his abilities are, and it's hard for people to kind of change their mindset. But love the story, and I'm with you, man. I'm so excited to see what he can do these SC championship and then beyond to try to win back-to-back national championships.
Hey, you're 2 games away from the national championship game. So, let's go get them. Okay, so the college football playoff rankings came out, the latest ones last night. So you have Georgia number 1, Michigan number 2. My idea is if somehow Georgia or Michigan kind of trip up, they're still in the Final Four. But then you have TCU at number 3 and USC at number 4. Lurking outside of that, Ohio State, Alabama, and Tennessee. So, this is purely guessing. But as you sit here right now, as you look at what's going to come up this weekend with the championship games, give me your best guess of who's going to be in the Final Four of the college football playoff rankings.
I think 1 through 3 is in. I think it would take Kansas State beating TCU by like 30, 40 points for people to be like, okay, do we really want to put TCU in there? The Big 12 and the gauntlet that they had to go through this year, I respect what they've done. They went undefeated. Same thing, obviously, with Georgia, Michigan. So I think 1 through 3 should be in, and I kind of think USC too. Ohio State and Alabama have not done anything to me that screams they deserve a chance to be in the playoffs. Yeah. Ohio State's schedule has been pretty lax. They got the one win at Penn State, which was great, top 10 win. But then you get blown out at home without Blake Corum for Michigan and get embarrassed. And that's just unacceptable. There's no excuse. The weather was good and Michigan was missing their best player on offense, and you gave up that many points. So why do you deserve to be in the Final Four? I don't think you do. Same thing for Alabama. What have you done to say you deserve a shot to be in the playoffs? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So I think the first 3, definitely yes. I think USC, the one knock is if you lose to Utah once, which they did in the regular season, and then you lose to them again, that, they almost would have been better having Oregon be in the Pac-12 championship and losing to a different team. But I still believe those 4 should be in. But USC is the big one. I do think that the committee at the end of the day, if the Trojans lose on Friday night to Utah, Ohio State will slip into that number 4 spot, which is unfortunate, man. You get penalized by playing an extra game while Ohio State gets to sit at home after just getting smoked by Michigan. I don't like it at all. But it's the world we live in. It's the brand of Ohio State. I get all of that. So, but no, I don't think Alabama has a shot of getting into the playoffs.
Yeah, and of course, Nick Saban's been pounding the pavement about, hey, my guys need to be in there, and but that's Nick, and that I understand that, and he needs to be doing that. So beyond this year now, eventually you're going to have the college football playoffs expanding to 12 teams. Beyond the 4. And so eventually we're going to get into, like, I guess the basketball scenario, bubble teams and, first one in, first one out. What do you think about expanding to 12 teams in the college football playoffs?
I like it. I think, this year I think would have been really entertaining. I think we may come to the same conclusion that Georgia would have won the national championship, but I think leading up to that game would be really competitive. Like this season, 2 through 12, you could flip a coin. Who knows who would win any given Saturday? I think it'd be great television. I think people would love to tune in and watch it. And shoot, the way Georgia's played, you and I have talked about it here. The way Georgia's played this year, I think anyone that played Georgia would make it an entertaining game too, possibly. So I think it's good for the sport. I think it's good to continue to create some equality across the nation where, players don't have to say, okay, I have to go to Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, Clemson in order to compete for a championship. I can go to, I can stay on the West Coast. I can go to a Pac-12 school. I can go to, a TCU, whatever it is. Like, I can go other places, stay home, and still compete for championships. So I think it's going to really even the playing field a lot more going forward, which I think is good for the health of the game.
You have Hugh Freeze going to Ole Miss. A lot of discussion about, is that a good hire and should he be hired at Auburn? What do you think about that? Hugh Freeze going to Auburn. I'm sorry, not Ole Miss, going to Auburn. What do you think about that?
I like it. I actually had Hugh Freeze in Liberty about a month ago, their game versus Arkansas. And we talked with him a bunch on Friday night coaches meeting about, if it came available, would you take it? And, he continued to reiterate like, hey, I love where I'm at Liberty. Obviously would consider anything that came my way. But, he's a guy that's had success in this league. I'm in the belief that, like, listen, we've all made mistakes in our lives. Like, I got skeletons in my closet. I've screwed up plenty. You learn from it. You become a better man, and you go out there and live that life. So in a world where people love to just cancel someone and move on and bury them, I love someone getting a second chance. So hopefully he takes advantage of it. He's got the resources. They got a new facility. They got plenty of NIL money. They're in a great spot to recruit. Being there in Alabama, you can, get guys there. You can dip into Georgia if you want to. So I think they're in a good spot. I think they got a good guy. I was more leaning towards Lane, which I think was their first choice.
Right.
But I think Hugh was a close second. So good for them.
Yeah, Lane had a lot of fun with that. He has a lot of fun with everything, but he had a lot of fun with that. Brent Key, now the coach at Georgia Tech. Your feelings about that hire?
Hey, listen, they look like a different team since he took over as interim head coach. It's a team that's winning ball games. I mean, to beat North Carolina was absolutely eye-opening. Like, wow. And then they look competitive versus Georgia in the first half. So, It is what it is. This was a program that, when the previous coaching staff took over, there was a complete rebuild because you're moving, from two different identities of triple option to more of a pro style offense. It's going to take time, and it's still going to take some more time to continue to try to recruit, especially, when Kirby's in your backyard and you're not going to get the top recruits because they're going to go to Georgia. So it's an uphill battle. I do think he's taking over a program that's in a better spot than they were 3 years ago because they are getting more of the talent they need to run what they want to run schematically. But like I said, I like the hire. He went out there as an interim head coach and proved everything that you want to take over the program.
Now, you were with ESPN this year, doing a lot of color commentary for games. How did you enjoy that? How was your ESPN experience this year?
Yeah, it was great. Had a lot of fun. Got to call a lot of SEC games, so it's great to be close to home and cover the conference that I grew up watching and played in. So it's been a fun transition moving over from CBS down to ESPN.
All right, good deal. Well, we've been very blessed to have Aaron Murray with us on our program today. Aaron, of course, the UGA fans love Aaron Murray. Everywhere I go, I love Aaron Murray, and a great quarterback, good family man. And it's good to have you with us on our program today, Aaron. And we look forward to having you again soon on our program, okay?
Thank you. Have a good one. Go Dawgs.
Thank you.
Dawgs on Demand would like to thank Southeast Mortgage, the official home loan lender of the Georgia Bulldogs, for sponsoring our program today. When the time comes to finance or refinance your home, make the smart choice and get your home loan from Southeast Mortgage. Your friends at Southeast Mortgage are ready to help you. Visit southeastmortgage.com/UGA today for more information. Be sure to visit Dawgs on Demand on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and our great interactive website, dogsondemand.com. Join us for our next program as we keep you up to date with the latest sports news from the University of Georgia and more. Until then, be safe and go Dawgs.